Good evening, Bhante.
I'm doing fine.
Yeah. That Dhamma talk was very good, Bhante, that last Saturday.
Last Saturday.
Yeah, with the international program.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad.
Yeah.
you did it.
It was very good. They were very happy.
Well, it was mostly meditation practice, right?
Yeah. Today, Dian he went for his class.
Well, you can watch it recorded.
Yeah, he can watch.
We didn't know about it, Bhante.
Well, I didn't really tell everybody about it. There's some other things I do, like on a Monday night. Sometimes I'm on a Zoom program, but it's too complicated to inform everybody about all these things. Sometimes there's not too much time for it. So, well, it's 7 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and begin with the reciting Namo Tassa and the three refuges. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. Welcome, friends, to this Wednesday evening Dhamma discussion and meditation practice. I hope you all had a nice Wesak weekend, last weekend, or at least if you didn't know it, it was the Wesak weekend, and it's a time to reflect on the three events of the Buddha's life: his birth, enlightenment, and passing away into parinibbana. So there were some discussions on those topics. But this evening, we're going to continue on where we left off last weekend, or last Wednesday, on the discussion of the Eightfold Path in the practice. So this was the Buddha's description of how a person comes to hear about the Dhamma and then starts to practice the Dhamma. Now, last week we were reading and talking about mainly the first part, when a person is actually born and they grow up and they develop their senses and they start enjoying all the various things and getting caught up in the law of karma and reaping the results of their actions and maybe getting disappointed and frustrated with life for so many different types of reasons, and causing themselves a lot of unnecessary sufferings, picking up bad habits and following others and kind of like, trying to find happiness, but around every turn encountering all kinds of problems, either from within their own mind or from others, karmic entanglements with others that they've created. So a person comes to their wits' end, and like, says, I have to do something or I'm gonna, die or whatever, go crazy. So then at that time they hear the Dhamma. It's like, they're knocking on the door, that phrase of, you knock on the door and the teacher appears. So it comes to that point in a person's life, especially us in the West, and I can say that from my own personal experience too, that you realize you have to change, and then at that time something will present itself into your life. So in this case, the person hears that a Buddha has arisen in the world, because at that time the word of the Buddha's enlightenment was spreading around North India and all over, and he was becoming well known. So a householder's son or a regular lay person who hears that and hears a couple talks of the Buddha and gets faith. So this is where we're going to start out from. I'm just going to read a little bit, and then I hope you've all already read it, because it's really delightful to read the whole thing. I can't, I'm not going to read the whole thing out, because I want you to read it also. So a person hears that a perfectly awakened Buddha has arisen, the knower of the worlds, the tamer of persons to be tamed, the blessed one, the Buddha. He makes known the world, all the different worlds, and the law of karma, and the causes of suffering. And he teaches the Dhamma, beautiful in the beginning, beautiful in the middle, and beautiful in the end. That person is stirred with faith. And then it says that this person then, leaves the home life and becomes a monk. So this sutta is relating how a person actually becomes a monk. But because most of you or all of you are lay people out there, then how can we relate this to our own condition? You're not all going to become monks or nuns, but we can see it in a kind of a, relate to it in a different way. It doesn't mean you become a monk or a nun, but it means you get an interest in the Dhamma, and you give up some of your old worldly type of habits and so on, and at least try to lead what you might call at least some kind of spiritual life, or you begin what you would consider, a conscious quest for truth, right? Or a conscious quest to discover the truth about the mind and life, apart from what others have told you and so on. So, and then you start observing the precepts, because you hear from the teaching that about the law of karma, and that everything we do by body, speech, and mind comes back to us. And if we do things out of greed, hatred, and delusion, and break the precepts, those 5 main precepts, that's where 90% of all of our suffering and problems come from, having not lived by the 5 precepts. So you really see the truth of that. So you start practicing the precepts. And so it says, laying down the stick and sword, they live with a mind full of kindness and compassion for all living beings. They stop hurting others through actions of their body, speech, and mind. And then, so then they start to feel the effects, because when we break the precepts, then you get beset by guilt, worry, remorse, and fear, and always looking over your shoulder. Somebody's going to come looking for you, and so the mind becomes very disturbed by this. But when you practice the precepts for a long enough time, the mind gradually becomes free from a lot of that guilt, worry, remorse, and fear, because you're no longer doing the things that would cause the mind to have guilt, worry, remorse, and fear from what you are currently doing. Of course, what you may have done a long time ago in the past may still come to affect you in certain ways, but at least you're no longer creating more of those negative conditions. And so people, might, their life kind of smooths out when they start living by the precepts and they start, practicing moderating behaviors and so on, not fluctuating so much between the extremes and so on. It says, because of this success in the moral habit, they're not satisfied. They know the purpose is not fulfilled yet, or at least in terms of the teaching of the Dhamma. So a lot of people, their lives get all messed up because of, again, breaking the precepts and hanging out with the wrong types of people. And so once their life gets smoothed out a bit, they think, oh, that's enough. And so they get satisfied with that, but they don't go on to develop the higher mind. They don't go on to develop meditation and developing higher levels of consciousness. They just become a so-called normal person, right, according to the society standard of what a normal regular person's like, but they don't become satisfied with that. And so they begin practicing mindfulness and eliminating the 5 hindrances. So basically it means taking up the practice of meditation and trying to develop the mind in mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. And when they become free of the 5 hindrances, as we know, are sense desire. The mind is always thinking about desire and wanting, craving sensual things. And then the opposite of ill will, having resentment, ill will, anger towards persons. And then just a restless mind. It's not satisfied. It's always jumpy and, always wanting to, to do something. It can't settle down and be contented with the present moment. And then sloth and torpor and doubt. So these 5 hindrances are considered to be like a person in prison or a person with an illness, because it really limits your mind to be able to reach larger levels of, or deeper levels of contentment and happiness. So through the practice of meditation and through the living of following the precepts and moderation in what you do, gradually when you start to meditate or after meditating, those hindrances, you overcome them. And then you can attain the deeper levels of concentration. So these hindrances are, analogies of being like a person in prison. In this case, we're in a mental prison. Now, I've talked to people, I've gone to prisons and given talks in prisons, and I tell the people, okay, you in here, you're in a brick and mortar prison, right? But people outside, they're in a mental prison. They're in a prison in the greed, hatred, and delusions. And so a lot of you came in here, now you're in 2 prisons. You're in the brick and mortar prison. You limit your physical abilities, but you're also still in your mental prison. And that's why so many of them, they acknowledge that. And, they're teaching meditation in prison is becoming quite popular, and prisoners, there's meditation groups. Anyway, so to overcome the 5 hindrances, or let's say you're ill. When you're ill and sick, even the food doesn't taste good, and you don't want to do anything. But when you overcome that illness, it's a great freedom, right? You can go outside and smell the roses and play with the squirrels and do all the things. So the 5 hindrances are like that. But most people's minds are beset. When they try to meditate after 2 minutes, they go to sleep. Or you get harassed by pain and they're fidgeting around, or they're wondering when is this going to be over, and they're looking around and they can't concentrate. So when you overcome that and the mind finally overcomes those hindrances and becomes bright and clear, and you gain a more concentrated awareness, it's just as dramatic as being in a physical prison or being sick, is when the mind becomes free from those 5 hindrances. But it takes a lot of time and practice to overcome those in meditation, as most of you probably know from your own experience. So, and then so you progress through the stages of meditation, developing the state levels of jhana and purifying the mind of the hindrances. And then you start developing insight. And when the mind is calm and purified, you can clearly see the subtler activities of your mind. You can see how the mind operates more clearly, and you have a more detached observation of it. You can observe your body and mind like a scientist would observe an experiment, and say, oh, look, this is happening because of this, that happens because of that, this happens, and, in your own body-mind experience. So you can see the 5 aggregates, basically. You can see how the play of the 5 aggregates is there, and how the old urges of the mind are trying to cling on and identify with that. But, you develop those insights and the levels of insights. And you contemplate the paticca samuppada as the mind gets more and more concentrated. Of course, this can take years and years for a lot of people to reach these levels, but nevertheless, it's a gradual practice. But finally, they develop those levels of insight, and then gradually they attain the stages of the enlightenment. So I'm just going to read this part yet. So after the 5 hindrances are suppressed, gladness springs up within the heart, and the joy springs up. Because of the gladness and joy of having tranquilized the mind, the body and mind becomes at ease. And then they spread metta. And because their body and mind is happy and content, they spread metta, loving kindness, out to all living beings, to the 1/4 of the world, or all the 10 directions. May all beings be well and happy. May all beings be free from greed, hatred, and delusion. May all beings be able to hear the teachings of the Dhamma and wake up to the truth and to free their minds. And these kind of thoughts, and wishing that, not wishing any harm to anybody. So this is called the radiation of metta. So oftentimes that's done at the beginning of the meditation. And by doing that, you can gain the jhanas by practicing that metta. And thus the whole world, above, below, and around, everywhere, does he continue to pervade with a heart of loving kindness, far-reaching, measureless. And he goes on to develop the other Brahma Viharas of compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. And they attain the 1st jhana, 2nd jhana, 3rd jhana, and 4th jhana. This is how the Buddha is explaining that. With the mind thus composed, quite purified, quite clarified, without blemish, without defilement, grown soft and pliable, fixed, immovable, the person directs their mind to the knowledge of recollecting their former lives. So in this section, the Buddhas, by attaining those deep states of meditation, they reflect, they develop what are called the higher knowledges. I'm not going to go into that. Most people don't reach that level, but anyway. But at the end of that, they then understand, they realize the Four Noble Truths. They direct their mind to the destruction of the defilements, and they understand as it really is. This is suffering, this is the arising of suffering, this is the cessation of suffering, this is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. They understand it as it really is. And knowing this, seeing this, the mind becomes free from the defilements of sensual pleasures, the defilements of ignorance and ill will, and the mind is directed toward the deathless state, to Nibbana. And this is truly the highest peace, naming the ending of all karmic activities, the mental activities, karmic producing mental activities from greed, hatred, and delusion. The forsaking of the substratus for rebirth, the extinction of craving. The knowledge comes to that person, I am free, the mind is free. And fulfilled is what was to be done. There's nothing left to do. And that person, he or she, becomes one of the enlightened ones. So again, I encourage you all to read that section, because I went over it fairly quickly, but that really shows, I mean, that's the Buddha's instructions, especially for people becoming monks and nuns. But we can take each of these sections and see how we can apply that in our own life. I'm sure many of you are maybe not going to be reaching those levels of liberation and enlightenment, but being liberated from at least some of your bad habits that you might have collected when you were younger, or maybe you still do. Various habits that can affect your body and mind and affect your meditation. And that's why when people go on retreats, they follow the 8 precepts. So they would stop eating in the evening and just eat just once or twice a day in moderation. They would not go to movies or engage in singing or dancing, or they would follow the celibacy, refraining from any type of sensual activity like that, and doing these kind of higher practices that help to lead the mind on to deeper states. And there are a lot of people who do that, who have the right conditions. That people may get retired, or they have other means where they could, live pretty much alone and not have to get so caught up in society and all that. And, there's a number of lay people who have chosen to kind of live like monks, but not really like monks, and they can make a lot of progress. But even people who are still living in a household life and have families and so on, then each person can adjust these different aspects, the phases of the practice. They can adjust it as long as they have a good knowledge and an understanding of what the path is. They can learn to adjust it to accommodate their particular, situations and living situations, with the idea that once certain obligations are over, then not to create new types of entanglements, you might say. Like a lot of people retire, and then they become full-time babysitters for their kids, children, or even grandparents, they become babies. So their life gets entangled with with the grandkids and all that. And sure, that may bring them joy, but it's still going to limit their ability, because if something happens to their grandkids or their great grandkids, they become sick, then they're going to worry about that. And all these type of things, affect our mind from reaching deeper levels of meditation. So I'm just saying that to say that, people have to accept where they are in the life, and not to get frustrated if their practice isn't going as fast as they want, because these are the criterion, these are the steps of the gradual development of the mind to deeper and deeper levels of freedom. And each person, depending on their own karmic situations, has to evolve and decide what they want to do. But it's not just a wishing that it will happen. You actually have to arrange your life, in that way. So, like, for instance, myself, when I first encountered that, but evidently I had the karma to become a monk. Not everyone doesn't have that karma, but I did, and I arranged my life like that. And I stayed in Sri Lanka for 10 years meditating. So I, by understanding even intellectually the path, I was arranging the life, the next 50, 60 years of my life, I arranged it that way. Now each person's going to do the same thing, but according to how their karmic situation is limiting them. And so that's a very big factor, in the development of the practice. Okay, now having said that much and finishing this particular sutta and the explanation of that path, I want to now open it up and see if any of you have any questions about any of those things we were mentioning. There's something in the chat box. Let's look at that one. Okay, here's a question. Which suttas are focused on loving kindness? Well, the Buddha describes a practice in loving kindness. I can't pull a specific sutta out of my head right now, but even in that sutta we just read, he did a brief explanation. So people develop these gradual, you start with developing the loving kind of friendliness towards oneself, because people have self-hatred. If you hate yourself, how are you going to love others or have friendliness to others if you're not friendly to yourself? So first we have to do that, and then spread that to one's parents, one's family members, and gradually out. You look it up on the internet. Just look up suttas about loving kindness. I can't pull any specific one out of the hat. There's thousands of suttas, and I haven't memorized them all. So that's what I would recommend. I'm sure you can find a ton of things on the development of loving kindness. Just Google it. Good old Google. Now you can do it AI, right? Just talk to this chat box or whatever they're calling these things on the internet, this artificial intelligence. Now you can ask it any question and they'll tell you based on the suttas. And you might get some good replies from that. Okay. Another question, how often should we fast or take a silent retreat? Well, fasting, there's different kinds of fasting. There's fasting from taking physical, material food, but there's also fasting your mind from entertainments and other types of distractions. So even following the 5 precepts is a type of fasting. We're fasting our mind from using bad language. We're fasting our mind from, all kind of distracting entertainments and things like that. So, that's even probably a more important fast than just fasting from the body. But that's also at least reducing the amount of food that you take. That's going to be dependent on each person. But of course, by following the 8 precepts and so on, that's a kind of a total fasting. We're fasting our senses from indulging, like always wanting to listen to music or smell and taste things, watch things, because the mind is consuming. We eat these things. The mind's always consuming. Listen to that, listen to that, see this, do this, do this. So by fasting it, you let go of a lot of that, kind of activity. And how often to take a silent retreat? Well, again, that's going to depend on each person, but the more you do it, usually the deeper you get. The first retreat you take, you might not reach deep levels, but each one, you build on each one gradually, it builds up, but each person is different. Okay, this next question, the comment, the Karanyametta Sutta is a great one. The Karanyametta Sutta doesn't really teach you how to practice metta as such in a detailed way, but there's other suttas that do. The Karanyametta Sutta is a general, recitation of, just sending out vibrations of friendliness, but it doesn't do it in a particularly a detailed, systematic way, as you can find in some other books and suttas. But yes, the Karanyametta Sutta is a good one to read. Again, you can Google it and you can find it quite easily. Now I see there's a yellow hand on the screen from Nisanka in Hemanta. So go ahead, Nisanka, you can ask a question if you like.
Bhante, what is meant by pervading one quarter with a heart imbued with loving kindness? Likewise the second, likewise the third.
Well, this is a very advanced level of the meditation. You're not going to do that in the beginning, probably only when you've reached the first jhana or something like that, and then you can do that. So first you start with yourself, then you start with the people in your house, your parents and other family members, and maybe the neighbors, and your teachers you've had in school, the neighbors you've known, or the kids you've known in school since childhood to the present. And then strangers on the street. Once you can be friendly to these kind of people, then even strangers on the street. Smile at them when you walk by them, make their day or something, and do acts of kindness to strangers. And then gradually to even people that are unfriendly to you, the people that you may not like, be the first one to try to break that ice, and bring them a flower or something, or apologize for having done something to them. So you send it to even unfriendly persons. And then once you reach that level, then it's more, then you can kind of just imagine these subtle vibrations of peace within yourself going out, like across the hills and the valleys, to the towns and the cities, and eventually, like to the north direction, the south direction, the east direction, the west direction, the southeast, southwest, northwest, northeast, the 10 directions. So that's what it means by pervading the 1/4 of the world, the second quarter, third quarter. The Buddha divided into quarters, but these 10 directions, you can also use them because that's a more familiar, probably to us, in terms of sending out and then gradually pervading the whole world and cosmos. And it's kind of imagination. So you kind of use your imagination to some extent in doing that. But really it's about feeling those pleasant feelings in it. That's why first you have to attain the state of jhana. That's when you feel the piti and the sukha, and you've overcome any type of ill will. That's why attaining the jhana is important, or at least overcoming those hindrances before you can effectively practice this kind of meditations. I mean, we can practice it on a kind of a superficial level, just repeating the words. Okay, that's good. But when it comes to this point of really feeling that pervading, those vibrations is pervading out, that requires really being in a very deep state of concentration. So there's somebody has put a link to something on the Metta Sutta that you can copy that down if you like to check out that. Okay, this next question says, as a lay person, it takes a lot of effort to arrange our life in order to practice the Dhamma full time, or more than 50% of the time. Is that right, that a lay person after many lives of practice can still attain stream enter without being a monastic? I would say absolutely, yes, definitely attaining stream entry. Could be very possible in this life itself. But again, as I mentioned, like if you were raised a family, once the kids go to school and you get the job and tell them to find their own babysitters, and you can spend more time meditating. I mean, I would say that with a, kind of facetious, but what I mean, when people retire, they could just retire, right? And go live alone if they wanted to, but most people's karma won't allow them to. But if you arrange it from an earlier age, you say, this is what I'm going to do, and you tell your family that's what you're going to do, and then they expect it, then it may be easier to do that. But again, each person is different. The karmic commitments that people have created, having children and so on, that naturally these are going to be strong, attachments to overcome. But it could be done. And even people in family life, they can still attain stream entry. I mean, I believe it's very possible. Maybe the higher levels, maybe not in this life, but certainly stream entry should be possible. Be an optimist, not a pessimist. There's some people who are pessimists. Oh, I can never do that, or I can't do this, or you self-defeat yourself by being, having that kind of an attitude. And even when I was in Sri Lanka, when I first came to Sri Lanka in 1974, a lot of people had that idea that it's impossible for lay people, or even monks were talking about this. There's too much sin in the world, there's too much corruption in the world. It's impossible to even attain stream entry now. When I heard that, I thought, wow, this is very strange, because the Buddha never said that. And that's a viewpoint. Now, if you have that viewpoint, you're self-defeating yourself, not even to make the efforts. So even though there may be a lot of reality around the difficulty of attaining that, if you think that you cannot, then you're not going to. But whatever progress we can make on the path, just even little progress, by the time you die, and we don't know when we're going to die. That's why we have to start practicing now and not put it off until, I'll wait till I retire when I meditate, or wait till my kids are out of college before I meditate, or whatever. Then it's going to be more difficult. So anyway, you have to, start arranging your life now and not wait to the end when the entanglements get too much. That's why the Buddha, in the Buddha's own life, right? When his son was born, Rahula was born, and he saw the child, he went in to look at the child, the next morning after he was born, and he knew if he stayed there longer, he would get attached to it. So immediately he ran out and, renounced the world. You all know the story, right? But he came back and he ordained that boy at 7 years old. He came back to the palace, and the son went out to his father, who was supposed to become the king. And he said, I want my inheritance. I want my inheritance, thinking that it was going to be all the gold and silver in the palace. Right? Then the Buddha told Sariputta, go ordain him as a novice monk. So that was his inheritance, becoming a monk. And his son attained enlightenment at a fairly young age. So anyway, that's just the little side story. Okay, so it is difficult for lay life, and I'm very fortunate that I somehow I don't know how it happened, but I had the karma to be able to to choose this way of life, and it's been going on for over 50 years and getting better and better all the time. So people ask me, "Oh, would you ever disrobe?" And I say, "Why would I want to do that? It's getting better and better all the time." Okay, so okay, friends. I think maybe we will stop this discussion here and take a little break. Come back in a few minutes to begin some yoga stretches, and then sit down to practice meditation. Okay? So see you back in a few minutes. Okay, friends, so try to stand straight. Just relax your shoulders and arms to the side. Gently close your eyes. Keep the chin lifted up, level with the floor. Try to feel the eyes in the socket. Just feel the eyes from the point on the eyes. So you can feel the outline of the body. At least feel your face. You can feel the outline of the body. And then just begin some deep, slow breathing. 2 or 3 seconds to expand the abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest. Hold the air in the lungs, 2 or 3 seconds. And feel the last bit of air go out of the lungs on the out breath. Just take several more deep, slow breaths like that, cultivating this mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now we're going to begin this series of exercises, coordinating them with slow, deep breathing, repeating each movement 3 times. And open your eyes. On the next in-breath, raise the arms over the head. Interlock the fingers, turn the palms up, straighten the arms. Stretch up, stretch the head back. Out breath, touch the top of the head. In breath, palms up, straighten the arms. Stretch the head back. Bend back a little bit. Feel the arch in the spine. Out breath, touch the top of the head. Third time, pull the upward stretch longer, and then back a little more. Feel the sensation. And release the fingers, the out breath, arms back to the sides. Relax. Close the eyes. Feel the increased sensations in your hands and fingers. Feel where the clothing touches the skin of your chest or arm. You can feel the outline of the body. Just remember standing. Present moment of the body, just letting go of your thoughts. Just let your thoughts come and go in the back of the mind. Keep the sensation of the standing body, front of the awareness. On the next in breath, push up on the toes while raising the arms over the head, facing the hands toward each other and stretch up. Out breath, come back down. Use the in breath to help lift up the body. Stretch. Out. In. Out. Just close the eyes. Keep feeling the body, especially the hands and fingers, subtle pulsation, the feet pressing the floor. Just remember standing, standing. Next, we'll do the knee bending. In breath, lift up on the toes again, raise the arms up front for balance. On the out breath, bend the knees, lower down into the squatting position if you can, balancing on the balls of the feet. On the in breath, feel the muscles of the legs pushing the body up, all the way up on the toes. Out breath. In. Out. Out breath. Relax. Close the eyes. Feel the increased heartbeat. Other sensations. Remember standing, standing. Feel a little prickling, itchy sensation, aches or pain. Next, we'll do the side bending. On the in breath, raise both arms up. Keep your fingers and arms straight, close to the head. On the out breath, bend over the right side, as far as you comfortably can. Keep the arms parallel to each other. In breath, lift up. And the other side, out breath. In breath up. Looking to the right, out breath. In, out. In. Once more to each side. Out. The out breath, lower the arms, close the eyes, feel the outline of the body, and all those pulsations, vibrations, the activated life force that help your mind stay centered in the body, present moment. Letting thoughts come and go in the background. Remember standing, standing, standing. Now spread the legs and feet about 3 feet apart. Widen the belly. We're going to be twisting from side to side, holding the arms out at the sides. And breathe in. On the out breath, twist to the right. Keep your eyes focused on the hand going back. In breath, come back to the front. Let your feet turn with the body and then go to the other side. Next out breath. In breath, front. Just keep alternating sides like that with the breathing. Once more to each side. Come back to the front, lower the arms, close the eyes. Feel each foot pressing the floor. Feel the hands touching the leg, clothing touching the skin of your leg. Feel the upper body, clothing touching the skin of your arms and chest. Feel the head on top, eyes in the socket. The standing body exactly as it is, here and now. Letting go of the thoughts of the past or future. Just enjoying this life force bubbling through your veins, arteries. You now hold the hands together at the chest. On an in-breath, raise the hands over the head. On the out-breath, lower the hands to the chest and bend the knees, lower the body down. Try to keep your back upright. Feel the stretch in your knees and hips. On the in-breath, all the way up, hands over the head. Out-breath. In. Out. In. The out-breath, arms back to the side. Close the eyes. Feel each foot pressing the floor. Arms and hands hanging at the sides, clothing touching the skin. Head on top. And sensations on your face. The present moment of the body exactly as it is. Here and now. Body-centered present moment awareness. You now bring the legs and feet back closer together. Standing straight, with the head turning from right to left. On the in-breath, turn your head to the right, as far as you comfortably can. Look over your right shoulder. Turn your eyes further to the right. See something further behind. In the out-breath, turn the head 180 degrees back to the left. Concentrating into the neck vertebrae. Look over your left shoulder. In-breath back to the right. Out, left. In, right. Out, left. In breath, let the head stop in the middle, just close the eyes. Feel the outline of the whole body, vibrating, pulsating, clothing touching the skin. Should be able to feel some of all those sensations. That one inward focus. Remember standing. And the last exercise we'll do will be the backward and forward bending. So you know, hold the hands together down in front. On an in-breath, lift the arms up and gradually spread the arms and hands out to the sides as you bend back. Look up at the ceiling. Let out the breath. On the in-breath, lift back up, keeping the arms out at the sides. And on the out-breath, lower the arms and hands down towards the floor. And keep your legs straight. See if you can touch the floor with your fingers or hands. Keeping the legs straight. And stretch. And begin standing up. Turn the palms outward again. In breath. Lifting the arms up and out to the sides. You bend back. And bend back a little more. In breath. Up. Out breath. Downward stretch. Let the little bones in the lower spine stretch out. And the lower spine joins the pelvic girdle. Begin standing up. One more. In breath, arms up and out. Lift up. Out breath. Hold the downward stretch longer. Begin standing up. Bring the hands together at the chest. Back to the sides. Close the eyes, feel the whole body. Try to feel, imagine that activated life force permeating and saturating all the cells, tissues of the body, mind, nervous system. Allowing the mind to rest in the middle. Present moment, body-centered awareness. The natural mind. Feel those subtle sensations, pulsations. Okay, now we'll come back to our seats, get ready for the sitting meditation. Get comfortable in the sitting posture. To align the spine and the back of your head in a straight line, keeping the chin lifted up level with the floor. Just close the eyes. Feel the outline of the body. Tune back into those sensations you were feeling during and after the yoga exercise. The activated life force sensations, should you still be able to feel them. Try to feel that outline of the body. You'll naturally stand out. And holding that outline of the body in the mind's eye. Let's begin some deep, slow breathing again. It'll take 2 or 3 or more seconds to expand your abdomen, rib cage, and chest. Feel that expansion in the upper chest. Hold the air in for 2 seconds. And slowly breathe out, feeling the last bit of air go out of the lungs. Just take several more breaths like that, developing this mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now we're going to count the breaths from 1 to 10. Try to develop a more continuous concentration on the breathing. Keep your attention focused on the center of the body. Feel the expanding and contracting movement. I'll do the counting for you. Just try to follow that in your mind with the breathing. With the next expanding in breath, mentally count to 1. Hold the breath in 1 or 2 seconds. With the contracting out the breath, also count to 1. Feel the last bit of air go out of the lung. Next in breath, 2. Out breath, 2. In 3. Out 3. In 4. Out 4. In 5, out 5, in 6, out 6, in 7, out 7, in 8, out 8, in 9, out 9, in 10, out 10. Now discontinue the counting. Let your breathing return to its uncontrolled, shorter, irregular rhythm. You continue to feel it. Stay focused on the center of the body. Feel the residual expanding and contracting movement. Just make that the primary focus of your concentrated awareness. Knowing when the breath is coming in and knowing when the breath is going out. You know it by feeling the sensation. Especially try to feel with the clothing rubbing the skin of your stomach, rib cage, your chest, creating those sensations. Sort of imagine you're looking down through a microscope. Notice those expanding and contracting sensations. To help stay focused, you can make these brief mental reminders. In sitting, out, sitting, just over and over and over again. In sitting, out, sitting. The ongoing, continuous, present moment of this body, the breathing body. Breathing body is the natural connection, present moment awareness. Just try to notice how each breath is different. Sometimes longer, sometimes shortened. Sometimes you feel it more in the abdomen or stomach. Sometimes you feel it more in the rib cage or upper chest. It's always changing. Be aware of the brief pauses between the breath. Just a fraction of a second pause. And the next out breath. Just tuning into those 4 phases of each breath cycle. Expanding in breath and the brief pause. The contracting out breath and the brief pause. In sitting, out, out, sitting, breath by breath, moment by moment. Letting your thoughts come and go in the back of the mind. Just keeping those sensations, the breathing body in the front of the awareness. You get carried away in thoughts, recognize it as thinking. Gently let go of the thought. Take a deep, slow breath. Bring the mind back into the body. Back to in, sitting. Out, out, sitting. you have too many thoughts, do some more deep, slow breathing. I hope stay more awake, connected to the body. You can try counting your breaths again from 1 to 10 by yourself. Each time you get lost from the breathing, can't remember where you were, start the counting again at 1. Turning up the power of the mental microscope to notice more subtler, detailed sensation, breathing body. Be alert for any itchy or painful body sensations. Pull at your mind. Any thoughts trying to enter the mind. Stay connected with the breathing. Let all those different sensations, thoughts come and go in the background. With each out breath, try to relax more and more in the present moment. Feeling more and more subtle vibration. In sitting, out, sitting. The pauses between the breaths, check your posture. The chin is drooped down, the spine is slouching. Take a deep breath, mindfully straighten the body back up. Straightening the spine, be more awake, alert. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. So many different sensations coming and going. Pleasure or pain come and go. Sounds come and go. Thoughts, ideas, desires come and go. Thoughts of I, me, or mine come and go. These are all just a continuous change of five aggregates of the body and mind, and the nature of continual change and impermanence. Just underneath all of that change and pain, mental confusion, is the parallel dimension, the present moment awareness. It's not affected by any of the coming and going phenomenon. Present moment awareness connected with deep in the body. Now let's spend the last few minutes of the meditation sending out thoughts of Maitri or loving friendliness to ourselves and all other beings. Again, just continue to observe your own body and mind sitting there. Just recognize your own current life situation, the difficulties you may be having, the good things that are happening to you. Just look upon your own body and mind with the eye of friendliness and compassion. And just cultivate this train of thought. May I be well, peaceful, and wise. May I be free from greed, hatred, fear, and ignorance. May I be free from the pains and sufferings of body and mind brought about by such unskillful thought, speech, and action. May I also have the patience, strength, mindfulness, and wisdom to meet and overcome all difficulties in life. May I be able to continue to develop the practice of meditation, free the mind from confusion and suffering. May I be well, peaceful, and wise. And sending these similar thought vibrations to your other family members, my parents, children, grandparents, other relatives. May all of them be well, happy, and peaceful, free from greed, hatred, fear, and ignorance, free from the self-created sufferings of body and mind due to their unskillful thought, speech, and action. May they also have the patience, strength, mindfulness, and wisdom to meet and overcome all difficulties in life. May they be well, peaceful, and wise. And extending these thought vibrations of metta outward further, thinking all my neighbors, people I've known since childhood to the present, teachers I've had in school, people I may work with, people I see every day. May all of them be well, happy, and peaceful, free from greed, hatred, fear, and ignorance, free from the self-created pains and sufferings of body and mind due to their unskillful thought, speech, and actions. May all of them also have the patience, strength, mindfulness, and wisdom to meet and overcome all difficulties in life. May they be well, peaceful, and wise. Again, you can take some more deep, slow breaths. And with each out breath, start to imagine these thought vibrations going further outward across the fields and valleys to the town, cities, over the mountains, spreading out across the whole county, the whole state, eventually the whole country. These thought vibrations like warm heat radiating off a wood stove. So with each out breath, just imagine these vibrations of loving friendliness permeating the bodies and minds of all the beings, soothing the fires of their greed, hatred, and delusions, soothing the pains of their suffering, and awakening the seed of love and wisdom in their heart. With each out breath, imagine these waves of metta thoughts going further and further outward in all the 10 directions, eventually across the oceans to all the continents, to surround the whole earth with the warm vibrations of metta. With the thoughts, may all living beings, wherever they might be, living near or far away, the weak or the strong, the rich or the poor, famous or the obscure, may all living beings be well, happy and peaceful, free from greed, hatred, fear and ignorance, free from the pains and sufferings of body and mind brought about by their unskillful thought, speech, and action, and through the karmic interactions with others. May all beings have the patience, strength, mindfulness, and wisdom to meet and overcome all difficulties in life. May all beings have the opportunity to hear the teachings of the Dhamma and to learn and practice meditation to help free their minds from confusion and suffering. May all beings be well, peaceful, and wise. May all beings be well, peaceful, and wise. It's like a mantra reverberating throughout space. Well, peaceful, and wise. Now to close this meditation, I invite you to join in chanting the word sadhu 3 times slowly. You do that chanting sadhu on a long out breath. Feel those vibrations in the body and mind. Hold the hands together at the chest. Take a deep breath. Mindfully place your hands at the edge of your knees. Take one more deep breath. You breathe in, stretch the head back, pull the hands on the knees to arch your spine backward. Lift the head up on an in-breath, and on the out-breath, press the chin to the top of the chest to stretch the neck vertebrae. Lift the chin up level on an in-breath. Relax on the out-breath. Put a smile on your face. Okay, friends. I hope that you're all able to have some moments of peacefulness and some present moment awareness, or get some insights into the nature of your own mind. So this brings our session to an end, and keep up your daily meditation practice. Remember, mindfulness a day keeps dukkha away. That means practicing the M&Ms, stopping every hour for 1 minute to bring your mind back to the present moment, touching base with the present moment. All right?
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you, Bhante. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Bhante. Have a good night, everyone.
Night, everyone.
Good night. Good night.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, Bhante. Good night.
Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Buddhaya. Everyone saranai.
Good night.
Teruvan Sarana.